All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Pains, the podcast where we talk with real window treatment and awning service providers or business owners about their successes and struggles related to marketing their business. Today, we've got a great service provider who's also been a friend of mine for a while and does some really great things. And I'm very excited to have him on today. So Casey Richardson is a partner and co-founder at Craft Agency Group and Ad School, specializing in lead generation from Facebook ads. Focusing on niche agencies working with local service providers, Craft fills a gap in the white label marketplace, offering Facebook ads at the highest level possible. Casey is known for a data-driven approach and expertise in testing and optimization, making him one of the most sought-after strategists in the industry. I'm lucky enough to have him on my podcast today. So, Casey, how are you?
Man, I'm doing great. What an intro. Thank you, Will. Appreciate it, man. Happy to be here. Happy to add value however I can.
Yeah, so very excited about Facebook ads. I know you're doing some fantastic things over there. So for the listeners, I want to get in a little bit to obviously how they can use Facebook ads for their business.
Sure.
How you set things up. We'll kind of get through some different things. But before we get into all of that, why don't you give me a little bit of background? Give me the story, how you got into the digital marketing world in the first place.
Sure. Yeah, man. I was a creative freelancer for 10 years. So I was always doing something in small business, typically around graphic design, photography, video, something in that kind of world. And, one of my more recent ventures, I guess, that kind of like tipped everything over into marketing is I ran a video production business. And, that agency was actually the first business that I built up to $1 million a year. And that one of the things that we came across in that process was like, okay, we filmed these great videos. Now what does the client do with them? And how do they actually maximize that investment?
Yeah.
And we kind of started going into, okay, well, let's, turn these videos into ads and make it more of like commercial campaigns and digital advertising for these businesses. And that kind of really opened my eyes to what digital advertising can do for a local business. And then COVID came around and essentially the entire business evaporated overnight. Video production is probably one of the most, one of the industries that was hit almost as hard as restaurants. There was no production that was happening in person at all during that time. And essentially my entire client base just completely, went away. So I did have a couple of clients that I was still managing ads for. That was kind of the start of, hey, maybe I could turn this into an agency. So I kind of ran that in the background for a little bit. Money was tight, so I did have to go back and work for the man a little bit. So, during that COVID time, I started working at Yelp as a sales rep. Your audience will probably have a love-hate relationship with that statement. Most sales reps from Yelp are very not helpful, and they tend to bombard business owners trying to sell them ads. And I was definitely one of those people, but I was one of the good guys who actually knew what they were doing and actually did help people. So I learned a lot from that process, and that kind of gave me the sales chops that I needed to run an agency. And that really opened my eyes to, there are a lot of business owners that have no idea what to do with marketing and they need help. And that opened the door to, okay, let's see what we can do from the advertising side. And then one day, one of my clients that was stuck through it all, through COVID and everything, I was running his ads and he was getting a ton of great results. He ran a hospitality group, hotel, restaurants, entertainment companies, all kinds of stuff. And he called me up one day and was like, what would it take for you to leave Yelp? And that was a really interesting question. And I had to think about it for a little bit, and I threw out a number, and he didn't flinch. And he was like, yep, come run my marketing department and build it from the ground up. And that was the start of what is today Craft. So
nice.
My business partner is that same person that used to be a client of mine. And we built up a marketing agency that was initially the in-house marketing team for a hospitality group. And then we turned it into an agency, which then led us to serving more agencies through white label, which then turned into Ad School, which is the primary focus today, which is training agencies how to run ads for people like what your audience are.
Nice.
Basically, when you hire an agency, I'm the guy that trains them.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. It's interesting how we sometimes fall into a career or for a serial entrepreneur, even then we kind of fall into new business opportunities. I did
Yeah.
something very similar. I would build websites and then just hand them over to the owner and say, okay, good luck.
Yeah.
And I had no idea about the marketing end of it. And,
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. Once you started to learn it, you're like, oh, this is pretty awesome. So,
Yeah. Very
yeah.
much so. Yeah.
Very cool. Great. So let's jump in and talk about some different things that our listeners could potentially learn from. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was best practices. I think that's a good place to start. What
For
are
sure.
some best practices around running successful ad campaigns?
Testing. That's a big one for me. I'm a huge advocate of listen to the data, not your gut. So a lot of the stuff with advertising that you think will work is probably going to underperform. And the stuff that you never would think would work is going to be some of the top performing creative or copy that you put out into the world. So it's really important to listen to the data that tells the entire story. So I would say best practice that anyone can take is test as many things as you possibly can, refresh it consistently, and listen to the data, not your gut.
Totally makes sense. I definitely agree. You should be testing, even other things, your newsletter, subject lines, all these different things. You should always be testing something. So that's fantastic. When it comes to Facebook ads, I don't want to dig into all the different types, but there are different headlines you can test, visuals, copy. Is there any order which ones are the best to test first?
Absolutely, yeah. So we typically recommend that when you're setting up a Facebook ad campaign, there's three main things that move the needle. It's your creative, which is the visual. Okay, so the photo or the video. Then your headline is the second most important. And the third most important is the primary text in the ad. So that's like your main body copy of the ad.
Okay.
So what we usually recommend is 10 visuals, whether it be images or videos or a combination thereof.
Okay.
And then 5 headlines and 5 primary text variations. And when you multiply all of those combinations together, you get 250 variables that you're able to test, which is really cool. And that's how you can test rapidly at scale just by having 10, 5, and 5. That's 250 different variations of the same ad, essentially, with the same idea, the same hook. And you can really get some crazy results by doing that.
I love that. And you don't have to come up with 250 different ads.
Oh, gosh, no. Yeah. No, it's much easier than that, much more leveraged.
Yeah. So the system just takes those different variables, mixes them together, and then lets you know which combination worked the best.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
But if there's one that's the most important, it's the visual, for sure.
Because it gets the most attention. I guess it's the first eye grabber.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally makes sense. Anything in the home services area, you've managed millions in ad spend. Anything in particular that comes to your mind that grabs people's attention?
Yeah, I think it actually seems a little counterintuitive, but I'm a big fan of ads that don't look and feel like ads. I think that with Facebook and Instagram, and I think it's also important to let's say when I'd say Facebook ads, I'm including Instagram in that. Facebook and Instagram is together whenever I say Facebook ads. So when we're talking about, it's essentially interruption marketing when somebody's scrolling through their Facebook or Instagram feed and they see an ad. So the chances of them engaging with something and being ready to engage with it when they're in the mindset of me see what my friends are up to, right? Let me be social. That's what social media is. It's let me connect with other people. Let me it's bringing everybody together, right? So the chances of them seeing an ad and taking an action on that ad are very slim to none. They're probably just going to scroll right past it if it feels like an ad, right? So I'm a very big advocate for matching the messaging and the creative to the platform that you're advertising on. Okay. So if it looks and feels like something that a friend posted, people are going to resonate with it more. And they're going to be like, who is this? What's going on? What is the story that I'm reading? And it's going to have a completely different effect. If it looks and feels like an ad, it's going to perform like an ad.
Sure.
And people are going to want to swipe away from it and not engage unless you're in that very, very narrow window when it's actually extremely relevant to them and they're ready to take action. But the chances of that happening in interruption marketing, very slim.
Yeah. I think from me personally, that's always been the detractor for running Facebook ads for clients is because what I always say is, they're looking at cats and babies. They're not necessarily going on Facebook to look for window treatments, right?
Exactly. Yep. But if you have a picture of like the before and after from the perspective of like the homeowner, right? Like trying to capture it as, or like a before and after video that's like a TikTok reel style kind of deal from the perspective of the homeowner. And like, I mean, there's a ton of like remodeling videos and stuff that you can model after and show those before and afters from the perspective of like a user generated style of creative that matches the platform that it's on. That's where you're going to see a lot of success.
I love it. On the Instagram side, I would assume, well, it is photo based, but I know a lot of our clients do very well on Instagram because customers are wanting to imagine what their home could look like, right? So having those kinds of things in the ads could really come across quite well.
Yeah, I think there's also for home services something to take a look at that we've seen kind of it's hit or miss, but it does surprise me sometimes every time I see it. In home services, if you're advertising for home services on Facebook, make sure that you're testing Facebook Marketplace for your placement. Because a lot of people go to Facebook Marketplace when they're looking for home improvement stuff. Okay. Or if they have like a DIY attitude or some sort of, so that placement right there does a lot. And it'll surprise me every once in a while. I'm like, wow, okay, we're completely crushing it on Marketplace. Let's double down on the budget in that placement. Right. So, and then the only other like really cool piece of advice that I can come up with is targeting people who like Home Depot. That's something that you can engage in. So, and then there's a bunch of other little tactical things that we can do there, but that's a good little nugget for anyone.
I like that. I like that. I like the idea of Marketplace because people are in more of a purchasing frame of mind, right?
For sure.
Maybe they're still researching, but they do have a little bit of purchasing mindset versus seeing what their friends are up to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's important to remember too, like interruption marketing, right? And if we're advertising to a cold audience that isn't ready for that purchase right then and there, we need to do what we can to try and figure out where that search intent is. And Marketplace is one of those places.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Okay, very cool. Let's talk about AI. So I recently had Jonathan Mast on the podcast. I know you know who he is.
Sure do.
We talked a lot about AI, things that we can do from a customer service perspective. But I would assume there's things that you can leverage AI for when it comes to creating ads as well.
Absolutely. Yes. We use AI daily with what we do across hundreds of campaigns. We test at scale. We're very big on that. So, like I said, listen to the data, not your gut. So what we'll do is we leverage AI for when an ad does really well. We pull the ad copy and we essentially tell AI, hey, this ad is performing really well. Give me 100 other variations of this. Right. And then we take all of that and then we test all 100 at scale. And initially just coming up with the first round of ad copy and headlines, we use a really cool approach where we have a very clear prompt that's like a 2-page Google Doc prompt that we plug into AI. And we essentially build a really detailed ideal client profile for whoever we're running the ads for. And then what we do is we attach proven copywriting frameworks and very well-known copywriters that are relevant to the niche that we're operating in. And then we stack that on top of the ICP so that the ad copy is speaking directly to the dream client.
Okay.
And when you combine those things together, you get some really powerful stuff that does not feel like an AI wrote it. It's very personalized.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Are there any strategies that are specific for generation that maybe you guys use more than others?
Yeah. So not in terms of AI, just in general, just generating
leads.
In
general, yeah.
I think it's definitely going to depend on the niche. So I'm going to try and make this as relevant as I can for your audience. But I think we're seeing a shift these days where there's a trust recession. Okay. And what I mean by that is people are smart and they understand, if they're giving name, email, and phone number out, and they're giving you that contact information as a lead, there needs to be a level of trust that's built up before you can expect for that exchange to happen now. And more so as we move deeper into the future of marketing and where I see all of that going, that trust recession is something that you really have to focus on overcoming. And the best way to do that is lean into social proof, testimonials, case studies, before and afters, like build up that trust as much as you possibly can so that people feel comfortable not just giving you their name, email, and phone number, but these days they have to envision you like you're going to come into their home. You're going to be doing work in their home, in their private lives. Like they want to be able to trust the business that they're hiring. And being in such a world where trust in digital marketing is so fragile, right? It really is. And it can be the difference maker between your campaign succeeding or failing just by focusing on how do you build up enough trust to consolidate the timeline that it's going to take in order for somebody to know, like, and trust you. And you have to compress that timeline as much as possible in digital advertising.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to using social media in general, right? I've done tests on websites where you can do user testing and say, hey, person, go do this thing on this website and let me know what you think. And one of the things that I got back one time, actually multiple times, was the person would go to the website and click on the social media icons and see if they were up to date, see if they were abandoned, right? And that was part of the trust or distrust of the business if they were posting often. And I think if we layer on top of that, the Instagram stuff I mentioned with having great pictures up there. I love your idea of the before and afters. I think people can start to really imagine what their place could look like right on top of that.
Yeah. And think about how you can save the consumer some time, right? So if you have over 100 5-star reviews on Yelp and Google, put that in the ad. And then that saves them from having to Google or Yelp you guys to find out, like, is this a reputable company? There's little things like that you can do. And of course, people are dishonest, but don't be dishonest, be honest, right? And show like you can do a five emoji stars and have a 4.8 rating and say, hundreds of 5-star reviews. And that's not a bluff, right? It's legit. So there's ways that you can navigate around that, but those are little things that you can do to just compress that timeline of building trust.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to talk a little bit about the future of advertising. Before we talk about that, I wanted to ask you about common mistakes that people do, business owners do when they're trying to run ad campaigns. What are the most common things that you see they do wrong?
Testing is a big one. They're not testing at all. Most people, like when we take over an ad account or when I do an audit on somebody's account, one of the most common things that I see is they're running one ad, one version of copy, and they're spending $10 a day. Right. And then they come to me and they're like, Casey, my ads aren't working.
Right. It's not working. Yeah.
Facebook ads doesn't work for me. It does. Facebook ads will work for you, but you get out of it what you put into it. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to treat it as a flywheel. You have to keep feeding it. It's a machine that will eat your creative for breakfast, and you need to constantly replenish and test new things. And, when you find something that hits, you need to be able to scale that to the moon. So I think to answer your question, there's two things that I see a lot of is people not testing enough or at all, and also putting their skin in the game in terms of budget enough. Okay. And I think that, we, like for ad school, we're running ads right now for our program. My budget for the month is $10,000 a month in ad spend. And I'm not saying that every local business should be spending $10,000 a month, right? I'm running national ads to a very expensive demographic of people. And, there's a lot of factors that go into that. But when we're talking about a local business that is providing a service for local homeowners, right? You need to be spending more than $10 a day, because the value of your job and what the revenue is that you can bring in from one specific client is high. So it's okay and completely normal for your customer acquisition costs to be on the higher side of things. But if you're expecting the world at $10 a day, it's just not going to happen, right? Facebook is not the platform for you. So I think you have to be in a place where you're ready to invest in serious growth. Facebook should not be the platform to solve all of your problems with a low budget. If that's what you're looking for, look elsewhere. It's the gas to the fire. It's you already have some traction, you already have some recognition and reputation, and you're ready to scale up to the next level. That's where Facebook is a really powerful platform to be on.
Yeah. Yeah. I love and it all goes back to the testing piece as well, right?
Yes.
Even if you have like an ad that's killing it, it still degrades, right, as time
100%.
goes on.
Yep.
So it's not like you hit a gold mine and you're just going to squeeze it for all it's worth. It's going to run out. Plus you have competitors who are probably seeing your ads and probably seeing some of that engagement and then, coming up with something similar, right?
Yep. Yeah. But like when we have an ad that does really well, I'll take the same exact video script and just change up the background or change the shirt that I'm wearing or, whatever. And we just micro improve the visuals and test different things when we know if we have a foundation that's working and it's doing well, let's take that same foundation and let's put it in a new environment and see how that does.
Yeah.
And there's different things that you can do to scale, whether it's vertical with the amount of budget or horizontal with the amount of creative and how you're approaching the campaign as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love your comment about the $10 a day. Facebook, Google, all these platforms, ad platforms make it really easy for you to set up an account and start spending money, right? They don't necessarily have to teach you how to do it well. They just want you to input your credit card and start spending, right?
I love that you brought that up too, because that is something that I see a lot of is, Facebook has this thing called Advantage Plus. And it's like they frame it as like it's an advantage for you to use this. I think a lot of business owners don't realize that Facebook and Google, they're a business.
Right.
Their job is like the only way that they make money is through advertising. So if they can find a way, if this multi-billion-dollar corporation can find a way to engineer you spending more money with them, they're going to do it. And they are very good at it. So pretty much all of the recommendations and anything that you see in Facebook, just ignore them all. They're probably just a tactic to get you to spend more money and put your ads more places that it doesn't need to be.
Great point. Great point. So let's jump into the future. What do you see as the future of digital marketing, advertising, especially for those small and medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, man, it's such a big question.
Yeah.
I think the future of advertising is really going to come down to, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think matching the messaging to the platform that the ad is on is going to be more important than ever. Also think that what we're seeing with curated feeds, I think targeting is going to be less of a thing because Facebook's algorithm specifically in terms of matching an audience to like video creative, even if you don't have text and a caption, its algorithm and AI knows what you're saying in a video and knows how to extract that and match it to the people who watch videos like that.
Wow.
And then take further actions. It's crazy what's going on in the background right now and what we're seeing. I envision less targeting options, probably more data privacy issues like what we saw with iOS and tracking and things like that. I think that's definitely going to be a learning curve for a lot of us and business owners if they're doing their own advertising. But I think right now we're kind of moving towards the commoditization of advertising where platforms are trying to make it as simple as possible for you to spend money with them so that they can essentially cut out the expert marketers and make it so easy for you to do that you just think you can do it yourself. I see pros and cons to that. And I do think that it's kind of like what I would compare to, like a muscle car that runs on gas versus a Tesla. The Tesla can drive you everywhere, but is it the safest thing out there?
Sure.
Is it going to take all the turns that you want it to take, right? In self-driving mode? And is it something that you like, would you really trust it to completely let your hands off the wheel and just go wherever it wants to take you? Because that's essentially what it is, except it's with your dollars. And That's kind of what I see happening. But there will always be, in my opinion, there will always be some sort of manual control behind it to help steer the ship.
Yeah.
I do think that will always be it may look like at like a pro level, like they might separate that between pro and consumer, but I think it's very interesting. And then I also have my eye on voice search quite a
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Voice search inside of Facebook?
Inside of everything. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm really curious to see the integration of AI in Apple devices as well, and how their partnership with OpenAI is going to, I think that's going to completely redefine search. I also think that Siri integration and voice assistants and ChatGPT's voice models and what they're doing there, I just think it's too big of a move forward, too big of a leap forward to not pay attention to that. Really curious to see what comes up with that.
Oh, I love it. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. It's a
Be
new
really
challenge, man. But I think it's all good stuff. I don't feel like my life and my job is on the line or anything like that.
Yeah.
So far everything with AI has helped us, get better at what we do, make more money, and help more people. And so far it's been fantastic for us. So
yeah. Very cool. What advice would you give to somebody who maybe is just starting out window treatment, awning business, or any kind of home services business when it comes to the marketing side of things?
I think it's really important to find a partner that knows your industry very well. We live in a time where, people like yourself can build an entire business around helping one specific kind of person. And they know the ins and outs of that industry. They work with other people in the space that are doing this at the highest level possible. And I think one of the most important decisions that you can make as a business owner is, who do you want to help you with marketing? And you need to also understand that you can't do it all yourself. And I mean, you can try, but you're going to be running a million different directions an inch, right? Rather than, running a mile deep in one direction and focusing on growing your business and running the business itself. Staff your weaknesses, really. I don't run my own marketing at all. I outsource it, actually, for my own marketing. Even though I run a marketing company, I could easily do it. I could easily keep it in house, but I want to keep it fresh, and I want to work with people that have grown businesses like mine specifically, and I work with them to do it.
Makes sense. Hire people smarter than you to do the things that you probably don't want to do anyway, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Can you recommend any resources, books, courses for businesses that are looking to improve their digital marketing efforts?
Yeah, I would say there are two books that really did a lot for me. Marketing Made Simple by Donald Miller, and the One-Page Marketing Plan by Alan Dibb, I believe is his name. Yep. Both of those were very powerful, just to kind of give you like a good rundown on the fundamentals of marketing if you're, just kind of getting into it. And then, of course, I'm a little bit biased. If you want to learn Facebook ads, I got a program for that. But
of course, yeah.
The foundations of marketing, though, those are two books that I would definitely pick up.
Cool. So tell us about the ad school that you have running, how that helps people, what it does. Give us a little insight on that.
Yeah. So, like I said, kind of at the beginning, I'm the guy that trains agencies on how to run Facebook ads, but we also have clients that are building their in-house media buying team for themselves, and they want to, have this in-house, and they don't want to outsource it. And for those people, the program is also great. It's basically for agencies or in-house marketing teams. It'll work for either one. And what we do is we take you from kind of understanding how to run Facebook ads to becoming a world-class media buyer. And I think that the difference between those 2 points in space is you need to have the system, the process, and the team to execute Facebook ads at a very high level. And that's exactly what we teach you.
I love it. And if people want to learn more about that, what do they do?
JoinAdSchool.com. Just head to the website, book a call, and watch some videos and take some time and, have a conversation with us. That's it.
I love it. I love that you've built out something that can help people make this better, and not call me and say my Facebook ads don't work, right? Or my Google ads don't work, because it's a conversation we have quite often. And I love all the tips that you've given us today. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with Ad School, it's been really cool to build something out where, there's nothing like this in the market. And I think that there's a lot of programs out there that will try and teach you a specific tactic for Facebook ads, but we take it way deeper than that, and we teach the fundamentals that are underlying behind all of those tactics that gurus out there, try and make a quick buck on. This is, my goal for the people that go through our program is to be able to pull up an ad account and immediately know exactly what to fix and why.
Yeah.
And that's the difference maker. And it just doesn't exist. There's no other program like it. So, really, really excited to have built it out, and super excited to see how it goes. And the first few people that have gone through it have said some amazing things. So,
yeah. I also love that you kind of take a step back and look at the industry, what they're doing from the 10,000 foot view. What is it that we're trying to do to accomplish? Who are the people we need to reach? All that kind of stuff as well, I think is really important.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you, Casey, for your time today. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to learn more about anything Casey has, of course, we'll have a link to Ad School in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please join us for more episodes. Make sure you subscribe so that you know every time a new one comes out. And Casey, thank you so much for your time today. I very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Will.
Thanks. We'll see you in the next episode, everyone. Thanks.